there's one right there.
Little smallmouth, it looks like. It is, it's a little smallmouth. Come on that Rio Rico, look at that. He hit it hard too. Dude, you wasted no time, son. Boy, you got it all inside your mouth there, buddy. There we go. He's just a little guy. He hit it with some ferociousness though. That boy was ferocious. Folks, today we're at Roosevelt Lake. The lake is up. Look at all the bushes in the water. I mean, you could call this, you know, weedless, Texas rig, flipping, topwater, buzzbait, whatever you want to throw. We're here late spring. And, you know, of course, I love around the outside of this to see if those females or the bigger fish have pulled out a little bit, you know, just to see if they might be on the outside of this stuff or throw up in the pockets with one of my favorite topwater baits, the Rio Rico. You can get the Rico too, but this one's a little bit bigger. You can cast it a lot farther. That's the Gold Digger, brand new color we have here. And it's awesome, and I love it because it's got that little chartreuse tip tail. Almost has that bluegill, you can see with the eyes and all that bluegill color. And this time of year, after the fish have spawned, a lot of times they're watching their fry by these trees, things like that. And a lot of times they can't stand the bluegill or anything around them, anything that comes around them, and they'll just crush baits like this. So I just thought, well, we'll pull this out and see what we can't do. It's the first time I've thrown it. We've taken maybe 10 or 20 casts on it, just coming down this little pocket here just to see what's going on. The water is dingy a little bit. We got to find a cadence that they like. Obviously, that one kind of hit it. I was moving it not real fast, but I was chugging it along. And it's funny because when you first come out here, you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I throw this bait? You know, a lot of people, you know, think the old school, throw it out there, let the rings disappear, which is good. If you don't see a lot of shad action going on, a lot of fish busting, things like that, then you can slow it down a little bit and just kind of throw it out there wherever you're going to throw it, by a bush, whatever. I threw it in the bush, but it'll come out of there too. If you really ease it out of there, just popped it out of there, and I'll let the rings disappear a little bit. And then I'll just give it a couple of chugs like that, let it sit there. A couple of more little pops, let it sit there. You don't need real heavy pops like this. At times you can get away with that when they're chasing shad, and this bait will spit up in front of it, and you can see how it looks like a little fry or something that's moving. Sometimes you can get it by a bush and just pop it once like that and have all that fry there and have one just come up and crush it. But a lot of times it comes down to, with topwater like this, finding a cadence that they might like. We'll play around with it a little bit. We've got other baits we can throw for sure. I'm just trying to see if there's some kind of topwater bite going on. That's my first topwater fish of the year, to be honest with you. So we'll go down the bank here a little bit and just kind of throw this thing around. I like to kind of parallel alongside the trees and things like that, and just see if we can't get a big blow up, you know? This is a lot of fun to throw, and there's nothing more fun than watching a fish explode on your bait. I've had the bait just sitting there after popping it once like that and have fish just come up and whack it. So you just gotta find out what they want. A lot of times it's not so much the bait that you're throwing, it's the cadence that you're throwing it. And so that's what we'll find out. They're either gonna, you know, bite the few cadences that I'm gonna do, or we'll have to try something else. But I'll tell you what, this bait can be a lot of fun to throw. And if you're catching quality fish on a bait like this, but you're not getting a lot of bites, it's still worth throwing, you know? So we're gonna go down the bank to see what we can't do here and catch us a fish. Oh, there's one there. Oh, that's a little bit better fish, folks. The Rico bass. Oh, he slapped at it and he's got it underneath his chin. Got it underneath his chin. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't want him tearing off those hooks. That's why you use a, look at that. One of the reasons you use a, look at that, we got him. Let's see if I can get him in. He slapped at that thing. Ah, little largemouth. Hello, buddy. What happened there is he came up and slapped at it. little bit better fish right there. Well, you can tell they've already spawned out there, but anyways, one of the reasons you want to use like a medium action rod, and there's a couple of tricks to throwing a bait with really small treble hooks like this. Treble hooks are fun to throw. You would think that, well, once they grab the treble hooks, you got them, but they can tear from them too. So, couple of things. I like to use that medium action rod for my topwater, okay? So I'm using a Taipan, and this is a 7.6, okay? Medium Taipan rod right there, okay? And one of the things that's really important is that I put monofilament line on my reel. I'm using the Ardent bait cast reel. It's an awesome reel. These reels are awesome. You can get a real long cast with them. But I put the monofilament on there because I like something, number one, that floats a little bit and has a little stretch in it. So this is a 15-pound test, okay? Monofilament line. And I use green line. I like the green line. We're in dirty water. I've always kind of liked the green line. The clear line has a tendency to put off a little shine to it. So when I'm around the trees and stuff, I don't want something that's glistening so much, but with the sun. But it allows enough stretch between the rod and the line to be able to get fish like we just caught on the back hook. Barely had him hooked because he slapped at it. Now, a lot of times what these fish will do is they'll come up and instead of just actually eat the bait, they'll go up and slap it, especially if they're garden fry. Because what all they're trying to do is get the thing out of the way. So they'll go up there and smack at it and try to threaten the bait or whatever. And a lot of times, sometimes they'll go up there to kill it and then turn around and come back and eat it. But these treble hooks that they put on these things are pretty doggone sharp. They're really ultra sharp treble hooks. Having the right equipment to throw with this, you don't want a real heavy rod, because if you use a heavy rod, then the odds of you pulling the hook out of the fish are pretty good when you're trying to reel the fish in, and especially when it surges. You have to worry about when the fish surges, because when it actually makes that initial surge, like when it sees the boat and starts going down, that's when the rod tip and the line and everything come into play. So you want to make sure you're good for that. This isn't the kind of bait you want to throw out there, catch the fish and start reeling him across the top of the water and hope he don't dive and then he's gone. So one thing I love about this bait is you can hear it. It's got a little rattle in it. So you can kind of walk this bait real slow and it's got those little rattles. And especially in dingier water, if they're on one side of the bush, they can hear it. They can hear it over there and they'll run around to the other side of the bush and go grab it, you know? You know, one thing that'll really help you in catching some of these fish too is to be sure that when you're casting and you're targeting a little bush like we have here, I want to cast past the bush. I don't want to be right on top of the bush. There's nothing wrong with casting by it like so, okay? And then bring the bait by the bush and get it as close to the bush as you can without getting too hung up. But the thing is, see, and it usually get a little forgiveness, like I'm in the bush there, let's see if there it comes. See how it came loose? A lot of times you pop it loose, you catch one, but bringing it by the bush is always better than slamming it right on top of the bush, because a lot of times these fish, especially if they're watching fry or anything like that, are subservient. They're just right up underneath where you can almost see them in the bushy part of the bush, and they're watching around it and everything. So if they see something coming in, you got a better chance of getting that fish to go out and target it. So that'll help you a bunch when you're throwing this kind of bait around those areas. Sometimes it's tough. When you find the lanes and things like this and you're throwing in, you're gonna hit a bush, but you might be trying to hit a different bush. But you gotta hit them all. You gotta find the ones that hold just like the stags. I call these stags back here, they're twigs. And they could be holding in there, or they might be holding in the green stuff here, these green bushes. And it's just a matter of you going around and throwing to all of them to find out which one they might be hanging out in or where they might be. I find that when they're watching fry, they tend to like these bushier type bushes. The fry tend to gather in that area unless the only thing they do have is a stag. So with all the bushes that we have now in the flooded Roosevelt the way it is, you can find a lot of this green stuff all over the place. Now trying to pick and choose what color you want to throw. Now remember, early in the spring or mid-spring when these fish have spawned, a lot of times they're watching their fry around the bushes. So that's kind of what we're targeting a little bit today. Now you're gonna have a couple of things going on. You might start seeing shad up in the shallows. So if you see them busting a lot of shad, then you wanna be throwing more shad colored baits. But right now I'm throwing more bluegill perch colored baits, frog colored baits like this, my formula color. You know, anything that's got a little blue and chartreuse in it, frog colors, you know, anything kind of like that, okay? I like this because I'm using this particular one here, the Gold Digger. It's got that chartreuse tip on it. I like that. But if I'm gonna go for the shad, I like the lightning shad patterns or just the shad patterns of these Ricos. And those work good when they're actually busting the shad. So the deal is if you think they're really feeding on frogs or they're feeding on bluegill and perch, that's when you want to go to those perch colors. And as soon as that's done, I usually all the time throughout the summer will throw that shad color and I'll do really good on it. So shad and fall when they're really busting, or summer and fall when they're really busting on them shad, and late spring, then I'll switch over to those shad colors because they have the white bottoms on them and they've got the little white tails and things. But I've designed this more for clear water. You want to use those translucent colors when you're in real clear water. Right now we're not in clear water, that's why we're throwing the Gold Digger. And you can see the bottoms kind of perch colored, and that's what we're looking for. So that's what I'm going to throw, and just kind of go down the bank and find some areas. Now, one thing you will learn about this type of fishing is you're going to find pockets and cuts and stuff that just aren't as good as others. You just got to keep casting and going, you know, until you find some areas. You'll come into an area where you go boom, 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 catch fish, they're active. You'll go into another area and you go, what happened? Somebody shut the lights off. It happens at every lake, you know, and for some reason, that's why they call it fishing. You got to keep finding until you find the fish. Oh, there's one. There's one. No. Catching a lot of the buck bass. Little Rio Rico bass. Look at that. And he's a little. Get in here, son. There. And there you have it. He exploded on it. Good fish. One thing you'll learn about topwater more than anything is, boy, talk about catching you when you least expect it, man. These fish you'll turn your head and all of a sudden your lure's gone. I'm looking for my next cast and all of a sudden I heard the splash. I look over, my bait's gone. I'm like, ah, there he is. What I'm doing with the cadence on this particular bait right now is just kind of keeping it coming. Real light though, real light, not real big splashes. I'm not spitting way up in front of me. I'm letting the rattles do the work and just kind of walking it almost. Just enough twitches and I'll stop it for a second, but I'll kind of keep it coming. Not giving them a good chance to get a good look at it, but I don't know, maybe it acts a little injured or something to them and they just come up and crush it. Hey folks, one thing that's really tough about throwing this bait is it does have a lot of treble hooks on it and it's hard. You would think that it's hard to get it through the brush, and say you're not a very good caster and you're worried about that kind of stuff. Well, number one, when you throw it over a tree or a branch or anything like that, like I just threw right in that area, I know I'm over this next bush. My line's hanging over this next bush coming up to it. Now, what I'm gonna do, instead of jerking real fast, realizing that I made a bad cast and getting it all caught up, I'm just gonna go ahead and work the bait to the bush. You might initiate a strike through there and then just kind of pop it through. You lift your rod tip up a little bit and kind of hop it through, and a lot of times it'll come right through there. Now, granted, if it's a big stick or something, that might be a little tougher to do, but the thing is a lot of these branches are real soft. So what ends up happening is the bait will work through that, but if you try to give it a hard jerk as you're coming through that tree, you're gonna bury the hook in something and it's gonna be tougher to get out. Now that's gonna help you a lot when you're fishing this kind of bait around the bushes, because this bait works around the bushes and you wanna be able to throw it. That's my tip of the week. You know, this is the time, oh, there's one there. That was a little better fish now, son. Let me tell you. Whoa! I love this kind of fishing. There is nothing more fun than throwing up behind a bush and catching a fish. That is a blast. Come on in here, Moby. That's one of the bigger ones today, actually. Come on in here. I'll bring you in. I just don't want you to hook me. There you go. All right. Beautiful little fish. All right, buddy. You know, one thing that's really helped us out a little bit too is sometimes you really got to target your cast. And what I mean by that is, you know, a lot of folks will go down the bank, and you learn this in tournaments, is a lot of people will go down the bank and they're hitting the outside mid-lake part of the bushes. And that's one of the reasons you see a lot of tournament fishermen kind of angle themselves, parallel the bank, and fish behind the bush where nobody else is fishing. You know, I was recently fishing a tournament at Lake Pleasant and didn't do so well, but I did get a limit every day. And my ticket was I was in an area where it felt like there was 15 boats in there at all times, just one little cove. It was the only area I could really see in. But a lot of them just were missing where the fish were. And, you know, I lost an 8-pounder, but what I'm saying is a lot of those fish were bedding behind the bush and everybody was looking in front, and they just keep going down the bank and they wouldn't turn and look behind the bush. And if you saw behind the bush, there'd be some back there and nobody saw them. And so in saying that, you know, the Rico's the same way. When you're going down the bank and you're tossing, for example, you can see this bush here. A lot of guys would hit the outside of the bush. You need to parallel and get behind the bush a little bit. You know, way back there, I didn't make the greatest of casts, but that's pretty much what I'm talking about. And get behind where the bait's not normally at, where people don't normally throw a bait. And that angle, because fishing is about angles, that angle will really help you in maybe getting that fish that everybody else is passing up. Well, it's been a fun day today. You have to go pick up some Rio Ricos. The new bait, look how they've tore that bait up. I've had quite a few that we didn't even get, but we tore them up pretty good. Had a lot of fun. A lot of little ones, but the big ones will start moving up. That gold digger is the way to go. Let me tell you, it's an awesome color. And like I said, when you see them start going to shad, then go to the shad patterns. Lightning shad's another great color, but that's a brand new color for this year, and it's a lot of fun to throw. Thanks for joining us on the show. We'll see you next week. I'm Johnny Johnson. Now, see, that's what I'm talking about, folks.